I always thought my bio son was slow and dumber than my stepson. At a birthday party, thought it was funny, and grounded him when he fought back. Now I've lost his respect, and everyone is calling me a monster. I'm honestly still trying to wrap my head around how a situation that was meant to be lighthearted turned into everyone acting like I committed some unforgivable sin. I'm being called cruel, abusive, a giving off narcissist vibes parent, and I genuinely don't think that's fair. For context, I'm 46. I have a biological son, Ethan, who's 15. I also have a stepson, Noah, who's 14. I remarried my wife Melissa 4 years ago after divorcing Ethan's mom, Rachel. Ethan splits his time between households, while Noah lives with us full-time. This matters because people keep accusing me of favoritism without acknowledging the reality of our living arrangements. Ethan and Noah are very different kids. Noah is academic, always has been. He's the kind of kid who enjoys reading, asks questions, gets excited about school projects, and naturally gravitates towards structure. Ethan is athletic, social, laid back, and honestly more interested in sports and friends than homework. That's not an insult, it's just who he is. I've never said Ethan is worthless or incapable. I have said he doesn't apply himself because he doesn't. I don't believe in pretending all differences are imaginary just to spare feelings. Kids aren't made equal by pretending. They're made resilient by learning where they struggle and working through it. Ethan has always been sensitive about school, and I've always believed that tiptoeing around that sensitivity does him more harm than good. Recently, report cards came out. Noah made the honor roll. Ethan passed, but barely, especially in math and science. I wasn't surprised, but I was frustrated. We've had multiple conversations about studying, effort, responsibility. I've tried encouragement. I've tried rewards. I've tried what people call gentle parenting. None of it stuck. So, yes, I've leaned more into tough love lately. That brings me to the birthday party. We had a family birthday party for Noah at our house. It wasn't some small thing. There were a lot of people there. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, friends. It was loud, casual, and relaxed. There was food, cake, gifts, and yes, alcohol. I wasn't drunk, but I had a couple of beers. Everyone did. During the gift opening, someone, honestly, I don't even remember who, made a joke about how Noah would probably want books instead of video games. Someone else joked about grades. It wasn't hostile, it was typical family banter. I jumped in and said something along the lines of, "Well, at least one kid in this house got the brains," and laughed. People chuckled. It didn't land completely flat. I followed it up with something like, "Good thing Noah balances things out around here." And then, yes, I said Ethan was the dumb one. I said it jokingly, not maliciously. I expected Ethan to roll his eyes or fire back with something sarcastic. That's how we usually interact. Instead, he went stiff. You could see it on his face. He tried to laugh, but it was forced. He muttered something under his breath, then said louder, "Yeah, well, maybe if you actually help me instead of comparing me to him all the time." That's where things escalated. I told him not to get defensive and said, "Facts aren't insults. Maybe study harder." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swear. I didn't threaten him. Melissa laughed nervously and tried to smooth things over, but she didn't stop me, and honestly, I didn't expect her to. Ethan snapped. He said I always do this, that I like Noah more, that I never miss a chance to make him look stupid. This was said loudly, in front of everyone. At that point I felt disrespected, not just challenged, publicly challenged. I don't believe in letting a teenager speak to a parent like that, especially in my own house, especially in front of family, so I grounded him on the spot. I told him to go inside and that we'd talk later. I said if he couldn't take a joke and wanted to mouth off, he didn't get privileges. He stormed inside and didn't come back out. The party continued, but the energy was off. People started leaving earlier than planned. I noticed it, but I didn't regret my decision. I still felt like I had to assert authority. Later that night, I told Ethan he owed me an apology. He refused. He said I embarrassed him. I told him he embarrassed himself. I extended the grounding. Melissa suggested maybe I went too far. I told her she was undermining me. The next day, Rachel called me absolutely furious. She accused me of humiliating Ethan, of emotionally abusing him, of constantly comparing him to Noah. She threatened to revisit custody. I told her she was overreacting and projecting. Since then, I've gotten texts from family members saying I was out of line. People who laughed at the party are suddenly acting horrified. I'm being painted as a monster for making a joke and enforcing discipline when my son talked back. So I'm here asking honestly, since when did joking with your kid become abuse? Am I really the villain for teaching him not to disrespect me in front of others, especially when he was already in the wrong? Edit. Adding context because a lot of people are asking the same things. I want to clarify a few points since some details keep getting misinterpreted. First, this wasn't something that came out of nowhere. The tension that led up to this had been building for a long time. And from my perspective, it wasn't a single comment or moment that caused the reaction everyone is focused on. There had been ongoing issues with attitude, boundaries, and respect well before this happened. I didn't wake up that day planning to humiliate anyone or make an example. I reacted in the moment based on what I believed was appropriate at the time. Second, I'm seeing a lot of assumptions about intent. I genuinely did not believe what I said would land the way it did. In my mind, it was consistent with how things had always been handled in our household. Direct, blunt, and sometimes uncomfortable, but meant to correct behavior, not destroy confidence. That doesn't mean I'm saying it was perfect, but it wasn't malicious or calculated. Third, for those asking about what happened immediately afterward, no, there was no screaming match, no physical confrontation, and no dramatic scene beyond what I already described. Things actually went very quiet, which I initially took as the situation de-escalating rather than worsening. Looking back, that silence is what's bothering me the most. Lastly, I want to be clear that I'm not posting this because I think I'm flawless or because I want validation at any cost. I'm posting because the reaction afterward, especially from people who weren't there, has been far more severe than I expected, and I'm trying to understand whether I genuinely crossed a line or whether this has spiraled into something disproportionate. I'll update if there's more to add once things settle, but I wanted to clear these points up before the comments run too far with assumptions. Update 1. I wasn't planning on updating yet, but I didn't expect things to spiral this fast, and I definitely didn't expect the narrative to turn the way it has. I figured people would cool off once the dust settled. That hasn't happened. If anything, it's gotten worse, just in quieter, more unsettling ways. The biggest change is Ethan. He's not yelling. He's not slamming doors. He's not arguing or pushing back anymore. He's just absent. He answers questions with one word. He doesn't make eye contact. If I talk to him, he nods or shrugs. No attitude, no sarcasm, nothing. At first I thought this was just teenage sulking, or maybe him trying to win by acting wounded. But it's been weeks now, and it doesn't feel like a tactic anymore. It feels like disengagement. That's unsettling in a way I wasn't prepared for. I'm used to resistance. I can deal with defiance. This feels like he's decided I'm not worth reacting to. From my perspective, that still reads as disrespect. Silence can be just as defiant as yelling, but I'll admit it's harder to discipline someone who's already emotionally checked out. Grounding doesn't land the same when the kid doesn't care what you take away. Things escalated further when the school got involved. Ethan went to the counselor. I didn't know until I got an email asking both Rachel and me to come in for a meeting. That alone irritated me. I don't like being discussed behind closed doors like I'm some kind of case study. At the meeting, the counselor laid everything out in very clinical terms. They talked about chronic comparison between siblings, about public humiliation and emotional harm. They specifically referenced the birthday party and said it crossed a line because it happened in front of extended family and peers. They emphasized that intent doesn't negate impact. I'll be honest. I felt accused. Those words carry weight, and I don't think they reflect who I am as a parent. I told them that. I said Ethan wasn't being bullied, he was being teased, and that learning to handle teasing is part of growing up. I said kids today are being taught to crumble instead of adapt. They didn't argue with me, they just wrote things down. That's when I realized this wasn't a conversation, it was documentation. Rachel wasted no time. She filed for a custody modification citing the party incident and what she called a pattern of emotional belittlement. Seeing that in legal language hit differently. Suddenly this wasn't about a bad joke or a family disagreement. This was about my access to my own kid. I was furious. It felt like a betrayal. Rachel has always undermined me, and now she's using this as leverage. She claims she's protecting Ethan. I think she's punishing me. What I didn't expect was Noah complicating things. Noah came to me one night, clearly uncomfortable, and said he didn't like what happened at his party. He said he didn't feel proud when I compared him to Ethan. He said it made him feel like he was being used as a benchmark instead of celebrated for who he is. He admitted he felt guilty afterward, especially when Ethan disappeared into the house. That caught me off guard. I genuinely believe Noah benefited from the praise. I didn't consider that being put above someone else publicly might make him uncomfortable. I told him he shouldn't feel guilty for doing well, but the conversation stuck with me longer than I expected. Melissa and I are arguing more now too. She finally said out loud that she thinks I favor Noah, not love him more, but favor him. She said she's noticed the comparisons for years and that she thinks I've been harsher on Ethan because I expect him to tough it out. Hearing that from her felt like being cornered. I told her she was rewriting history. She told me I was ignoring it. Neither of us backed down. Socially, things have shifted in ways that are subtle but unmistakable. Family gatherings are suddenly postponed. Friends don't joke around me the way they used to. I've overheard comments that stop when I walk into a room. The image I had of myself as the blunt but funny dad is gone, replaced by something colder. I keep replaying the party in my head. Not the words themselves, but the reactions. Ethan's face. The way some people laughed too quickly and then went quiet. The way the room changed. At the time, I thought the laughter meant agreement. Now I'm not so sure. What's hardest to admit is this. Ethan didn't insult me first. He defended himself. I interpreted that as disrespect because it happened publicly. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I cared more about losing face than understanding why he snapped. I still don't think I'm some irredeemable monster. I still believe parents need authority, and I won't apologize for believing that respect matters. But I can admit this much, even if it irritates me to say it. I thought I was toughening him up. Now he looks at me like I'm someone he has to survive, not trust. And once that shift happens, I don't know how you force it back. Final update. I didn't think it would end like this. The custody hearing happened faster than I expected. Rachel's lawyer came prepared in a way that made it clear this wasn't just about one-party incident. They had screenshots of text messages Ethan had sent his mom over the past year. They had notes from the school counselor documenting ongoing issues with comparison and public comments. They even had statements from 2 family members who were at the party and admitted they felt uncomfortable but didn't speak up at the time. I still went in believing that reason would prevail. I wasn't denying the joke happened. I wasn't denying I grounded him. I was arguing context, intent, parenting style. I said I was trying to motivate, not humiliate. I said authority matters, and that parents shouldn't be undermined every time a teenager gets offended. The judge listened, took notes, asked a few questions that didn't land the way I expected. One of them was simple. When your son spoke up at the party, what did you want him to learn in that moment? I said I wanted him to learn respect. The follow-up was, respect for whom? I didn't have a clean answer. The outcome was a reduction in my parenting time. Not full removal, but enough to make the message unmistakable. Therapy was mandated. Family therapy if Ethan agreed, individual therapy regardless. Unsupervised time wasn't eliminated entirely, but it was conditional. The judge used the phrase, emotionally unsafe environment, which I still think is dramatic, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. Walking out of that courtroom, it hit me that the authority I'd assumed was permanent had just been limited by people who didn't care how funny I thought I was, or how justified I felt. Ethan made his boundaries clear shortly after. He told the therapist, and then me, during a joint session, that he didn't want to be alone with me for now. He said he didn't feel safe being the butt of jokes. He said he was tired of being compared to Noah, like he was a benchmark instead of a person. He didn't yell, he didn't cry. He was calm in a way that felt rehearsed, which somehow made it worse. He asked for one thing specifically, that I stop comparing him to Noah. Not privately, not publicly, at all. I wanted to argue that comparison is part of life, that the world doesn't hand out participation trophies, that he's going to hear worse things from bosses and peers. All the lines I've used before lined up in my head, ready to deploy. I didn't use them, not because I suddenly became enlightened, but because I could see that saying them would cost me whatever fragile access I had left. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a negotiation over whether I stayed relevant in my son's life. That realization didn't feel noble. It felt humbling in a way I wasn't prepared for. What I didn't expect was Noah pulling away too. He stopped responding positively when I praised him. When I told him I was proud of his grades, he changed the subject. When I joked about him being the smart one, he shut it down himself and said he didn't like that label. He told Melissa he felt weird being put above Ethan, like he was benefiting from something unfair. That was a blow to my ego I didn't see coming. I thought my approval mattered to him. Turns out it came with strings he didn't want. Melissa and I aren't in a good place. She's not threatening to leave, but there's distance now. She doesn't back me automatically. She challenges things she used to let slide. She told me, flat out, that the party wasn't a one-off, that it was just the moment everyone else finally saw what she'd been noticing for years. That hurt. It also made me defensive. I told her she was piling on when I was already dealing with enough. She said that might be the first honest thing I'd said in weeks. The final interaction with Ethan was polite. That's the best word for it. I apologized. Not a sweeping, emotional apology, but a direct one. I told him the joke was wrong. I told him grounding him publicly was about my pride, not his behavior. I told him I shouldn't have put him in a position where defending himself turned into punishment. He accepted the apology, but there was no warmth in it. No relief. No thanks, Dad. Just a nod and a quiet, okay. He didn't forgive me in the way people like to imagine forgiveness. He acknowledged the words and kept his distance. That's when it clicked that respect doesn't always come back once it's gone. You can apologize and still be reclassified in someone's mind. From authority to liability, from safe to unpredictable. I don't think I'm a monster. I still think the internet loves extremes and labels. I don't wake up wanting to hurt my kids. But I can finally admit this. My humor wasn't neutral. It wasn't harmless. It was a way to control the room, to remind everyone, including Ethan, where I stood in the hierarchy. And when he challenged that, I punished him not for disrespect, but for disrupting the image I wanted to maintain. That's not discipline, that's retaliation. Things are quieter now. I see Ethan less. When I do, I'm careful in a way I never had to be before. Not because I'm afraid of him, but because I'm aware that every word carries weight it didn't before. Noah doesn't seek my approval the way he used to. Melissa watches me more closely. The house feels less like a stage and more like a place where I'm being evaluated. I don't like that. But I earned it. The hardest part is accepting that I can change my behavior going forward and still never get back what I lost. There's no reset button for public humiliation. No punishment that restores trust once it's been eroded in front of an audience. I used to believe respect was something you demanded and enforced. Now I know it's something you can lose in one joke if the room is watching. And once it's gone, authority alone won't bring it back.